Today, we are talking about a true hero, one that's inside every single one of us. It works tirelessly 24/7, and honestly, it's probably the most underappreciated organ in the entire body. Yep, we're talking about the liver. But before we really get into it, I've got a quick question for you. Just think about it for a second. All your internal organs, your heart, your lungs, your brain. Which one do you think is the heaviest? Any ideas? Well, the answer is the liver. It weighs in at an average of 1.5 kilograms. That's about 3.3 pounds for an adult. To put that in perspective, that's kind of like carrying a small bag of flour inside you all the time. But its size is just the beginning of the story. This one organ is an absolute multitasking powerhouse. I'm talking over 500 different vital jobs. It's like a factory, a storage unit, and a waste treatment plant, all rolled into one. So let's dive in and see how it pulls it all off. Okay, so here's what we've got on the agenda. First, we'll meet this powerhouse. Then we'll check out its anatomy. After that, we're going to zoom right into its microscopic factory, explore some of those 500-plus jobs, and finally, we'll talk about its amazing resilience and, of course, the risks it faces. All right, first up, meet the body's powerhouse. Now, not only is this the largest internal organ we have, it's also the body's largest gland. Pretty impressive, right? So, where exactly is this heavyweight champ? Well, it's tucked away safely in the upper right part of your abdomen, right underneath your diaphragm, all protected by your rib cage. It's this reddish-brown, kind of wedge-shaped organ, and it's absolutely central to your body's whole layout. Okay, moving on to section 2, the anatomy of a multitasker, because you're about to see how its physical structure is just perfectly designed for all the jobs it has to do. So the liver isn't just one big blob. Nope. It's actually divided into 4 different sections, what we call lobes. You've got the massive right lobe, and get this, it's about 6 times bigger than the left lobe. Then there are 2 smaller lobes, the caudate and the quadrate, that are kind of tucked away underneath. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Let's talk about the liver's blood supply. You see, unlike most of your other organs that just get blood from one source, the liver is special. It has a dual supply. About 75% of its blood comes from something called the portal vein, and the other 25% comes from the hepatic artery. And this breakdown really shows you why it needs 2 different blood supplies. The portal vein? That's bringing in all the nutrient-rich blood straight from your digestive system. Think of it as the delivery truck for all the raw materials the liver needs to process. Then you have the hepatic artery, which delivers fresh, oxygen-rich blood. And that's what keeps the liver's own cells alive and working. It's just an incredibly efficient system. Okay, so we've seen the big picture. Now let's zoom way, way in, down to the microscopic level. Section 3, inside the microscopic factory. Because trust me, this is where the real magic happens. The liver is basically made up of millions of these tiny hexagonal units called hepatic lobules. You should really just think of them as mini factories. Inside each one, you have hepatocytes. Those are the worker cells doing all the heavy metabolic lifting. Blood flows through these special channels called sinusoids where it gets filtered, and then the clean blood flows out through a central vein. It's a whole assembly line. And patrolling those channels, those sinusoids, are these incredible cells called Kupffer cells. Think of them as the liver's own security guards, its resident immune cells. Their job is to literally engulf and destroy any bacteria, toxins, or old, worn-out red blood cells that try to pass through. They are absolutely critical. They're the cleanup crew. So one of the liver's most famous products has got to be bile, right? It's absolutely essential for digesting fats. And this shows you its whole journey. It starts with the hepatocytes making it, then it gets collected in these tiny little canals, and from there it's funneled into bigger and bigger ducts until finally it gets delivered right to the small intestine to get to work. Okay, so we've seen all this incredible microscopic machinery. But what does it all do? Well, let's zoom back out for section 4, the liver's 500-plus jobs. Yep, it's a true master of metabolism, storage, and, of course, detox. And yes, you heard that right. That number is not a typo. Scientists have identified over 500 vital functions that the liver performs. Obviously, we can't cover all of them today, but we're going to look at some of the absolute most critical ones. First up, let's talk about blood sugar. This is a huge one. When you have too much sugar in your blood, say after a big meal, the liver kicks into action with a process called glycogenesis. It basically grabs that extra glucose and converts it into a storage form called glycogen. It's literally packing away energy for you to use later. And then, what happens when your blood sugar drops, maybe between meals or when you're working out? Well, the liver just reverses the process. That's called glycogenolysis. It breaks down that stored glycogen and releases glucose right back into your bloodstream to give you the energy you need right when you need it. But wait, what if you run out of glycogen? Does your body just stop? Nope. The liver has an emergency backup plan. It's called gluconeogenesis. It can actually create brand new glucose from totally different sources like proteins and fats. It's like an emergency generator, making sure your brain and your muscles always have the fuel they need to keep going. And it's not just about energy. The liver also acts as your body's personal, well-stocked pantry. I mean, look at this list. It stores a whole range of essential nutrients. Glycogen for energy, sure, but also minerals like iron and copper, and crucial vitamins like A, D, B12, and K. And it just holds onto them, releasing them whenever your body sends out the signal that it needs them. And as if all that wasn't enough, the liver is your body's master detoxification center. It's your primary filter. It takes all sorts of harmful stuff. We're talking everything from alcohol and drugs to the natural waste products your body makes, like ammonia, and it converts them into harmless substances, like urea, that your kidneys can then safely get rid of. Seriously, without this constant cleanup, those toxins would just build up and cause major damage. And all of that brings us to our final section: resilience, risks, and regeneration. You see, for an organ that works this hard, it has a pretty incredible superpower. But, and this is important, it's not invincible. So what's with this number? 70%. Well, that represents the liver's jaw-dropping ability to regenerate. It is the only internal organ that can do this. You could surgically remove up to 70% of a healthy liver, and it can grow back to its original size. I mean, that is a legitimate superpower. But despite that superpower, the liver is still vulnerable, and this table highlights some of the biggest threats it faces. You have things like hepatitis, which is an inflammation usually caused by a virus, or fatty liver disease, which is exactly what it sounds like. Too much fat builds up in the liver cells. Both of these can cause some serious ongoing damage. And if that damage just keeps going, it can lead to cirrhosis. Now, this is really bad news. Cirrhosis is when the healthy working liver tissue gets replaced by permanent scar tissue. And once that happens, all those 500+ jobs we talked about, managing sugar, storing vitamins, and especially detoxing your body, they just start to fail. That can lead to liver failure, which is absolutely life-threatening. And something like jaundice, that yellowing of the skin and eyes, that's often a big warning sign that the liver is really struggling to clear out waste products. So let's just wrap up with this thought. We've seen how the liver is this tireless, multitasking hero that's always working behind the scenes for you. It metabolizes, it stores, it detoxifies, it even regenerates. So the final question I want to leave you with is a personal one. If this single organ is doing over 500 different jobs every single day just to keep you healthy, what are you doing for it?